This is a new MMO that is coming out. Here we go.
The void has consumed us all. Is this the end?
Oh.
What divinity dwells in this madness? Calamity bears not name nor face, yet draws closer still.
This looks badass. This is a
I
Korean
shall
game?
return
Yeah.
you to the past. You must prevail, no matter the cost. Reshape the future by your own hand. Sentinel of Cetera, I await your return.
That was fucking badass. That was really fucking badass. And they're having a demo for that shit next month too. There's a developer interview. Watch that, please. Yeah, this is actually really big. I didn't even know this.
저는 크로노디세이 개발 총괄 PD 윤상태라고 합니다.
Hello, my name is Don, and I'm one of the product managers working on Chrono Odyssey.
Hi, Don.
저희는 크로노 오디세이의 제작을 시작하면서
Make overall
엔드
progression
컨텐츠뿐만
just as
아니라
enjoyable as
성장
in-game
과정
content.
자체가
That's
즐거운
good.
게임을 만들자라는 생각을 하게 되었습니다.
Bro, see, like, look at the characters. This guy's absolutely fucking massive. Look, it's insane. And then you have the super hot characters, obviously. Yep. Great.
누군가와 경쟁에서 승리하는
gifted.
것보다
Thank you very much for
로딩
50
없이
gifted subs.
방대한 필드를 누비며 때로는 아무 목적 없이 숲을 걷기도 하고 때로는 나무를 베고 낚시를 하고 혼자선 버거운
Wandering
몬스터를
in the
친구들과
woods,
함께
cutting
모여
trees,
잡는
fishing.
그런
Degrees of
MMORPG라서
limitless
가질 수
adventure,
있는
unique to
낭만을 게임에
MMORPGs.
담고 싶었습니다.
That's one of the big things, like, whenever New World originally came out, that was one of the things that made New World really good, is that people could do professions and other kind of cool stuff like that and actually enjoy it. I feel like a lot of games kind of ignore that now.
크로노 오디세이의 세계는 단순한
Isn't it your
판타지가
typical
아닙니다.
fantasy setting? I've heard that a
낯설고
lot.
위압적인 그리고 경외감을 느끼게
I
하는
feel like it's obviously
세계였습니다.
got a lot of like Dark
영화
Souls inspiration to
프로메테우스에서
it.
보여주는 코스믹 호러의
At least to
분위기,
me, I think it
그리고
does.
스타크래프트 저그의 침공처럼 압도적인 존재가 인간의
The
세계를
cosmic horror vibe
집어삼키는
of Prometheus.
이런 감각과
Ooh.
상황을 크로노 오디세이의 세계에 담고 싶었습니다.
Yeah, I could see that. Damn.
크로노 오디세이의 주 무대인 세테라는
looks
과거와
good.
미래가 충돌하고
Says
신과
StarCraft
인간,
2.
보이드라는 정체불명의 존재들이 얽히며
Humans unknown
우리가
entities known
알던
as the Void
세계의
come to a
법칙이
head.
무너진 공간입니다. 유의신이 개입하지 않는 세계,
In the absence of
그리고
divine
그
order, the
틈을
boundaries
노려
between dimensions
차원 간의
collapse.
전쟁과 침공을 그린 설정은
This is a pretty common
우리가
theme.
기존 MMORPG에서 보지 못했던 거대한 스케일과 혼돈과 절망을
Yeah, I don't know if
표현하고
it's really
있습니다.
that much different, but yeah,
플레이어는
I get it.
세테라를 통해 거대한 힘에 맞서 버티고
You'll stand against
때로는
formidable
과거와
foes, tremendous
미래를
fast and future,
넘나들며
to all through the
세상을
fate.
바꿔야 하는 존재입니다. 강하기만 한
I
몬스터를
always get scared when a game invokes time travel. I always get very scared.
사냥하는 것이 아니라
I think
이질적인
the
힘에
only time where it's okay is if the game is built on it. The problem is like whenever a story doesn't have time travel and then it's introduced later on, like, you know, with Avengers Endgame or like with Warlords of Draenor in WoW. Our goal is to immerse players in back narrative where they must confront forces before being the content. Yeah, sure.
서고 성장하며
It's very tricky.
플레이어가
Last Epoch?
거대한
Yeah,
이야기
Last
속의
Epoch I
일부가
think did pretty well.
되도록 만들고 싶었습니다. 오래전부터 감명 깊게 생각했던 게임인 크로노 트리거에서 거대한 사건에 대항하기 위한 시간이라는 개념에 너무 큰 매력을 느꼈고
So he just like Chrono Trigger and he wanted to make a game like that?
접목시킬 수 있을지
Damn.
가능한
Okay.
건지에 대해 많은
Alright.
이야기를 나눴습니다.
That makes sense. Sure. Makes a lot of sense.
결과적으로 크로노 오디세이의
foundation of
세계관은
Chrono Odyssey's world
코스믹
building rooted in
호러와
themes of cosmic
시공간의
horror and
설정을
space-time.
기준으로 탄생하게 되었습니다. 모두가 MMORPG에서 불가능할 거라 생각했던 시공간의 조작은 크로노텍터라는 이름으로
Putting space time
게임에
manipulation in RPG
담아냈습니다.
was impossible. It's not impossible. Okay, let's see it. So now we're gonna see some actual gameplay. Is that it?
크로노 오디세이는 단순히 기술적인
showcase our
성취를
technology.
보여주기 위해 개발된 게임이 아닙니다.
So this is an
언리얼
Unreal
엔진
5
5를
game.
선택한 이유는 최신 기술을
Okay.
자랑하기 위해서가 아니라 우리가 머릿속에 그렸던 평화로운 세테라가 이질적인
Shows
차원으로부터
Unreal 5 from a
침공당한
chaotic world to
상황을
life.
구현하기
Yeah, I can see that.
위해서였습니다. 그래서
I feel like a lot of games that look really good with Unreal 5 maybe aren't good, but like there are games that use Unreal 5 that are really good, like Black Myth Wukong, for example.
언리얼 엔진 5를 사용했다는 사실을 강조하고 싶진 않습니다.
Expedition 33?
대신
Was
이
that
기술을
also?
통해
Yeah.
우리가 상상했던
Unreal
세계를
5. This is actual
플레이어가
gameplay.
온전히 체감할 수 있도록 구현했고
Yeah, this looks
플레이어
good.
스스로가 자기도 모르는 사이에 이질적인 힘의 영향을 받고 있으며 끝없는 혼돈.
One of the really important things with MMOs, and like this is what happened with Throne and Liberty, is that Throne and Liberty felt like shit to play. Like just moving around in the game, combat just felt like garbage. Like that is the main thing that you need to make sure is good. Like I don't know how classic WoW still feels better than 95% of MMOs that are out even now. I'd say Lost Ark also does a good job too.
속에서
Haven't thought about that game for a
혼돈해야 하는
long
존재가
time.
되도록 만들고 싶었습니다.
So I used to
이
go Black
게임의
Desert.
핵심은 현실과
In my opinion, and this might be a hot take, I actually think that Black Desert's combat is antiquated. I think that it is. I think that there are things about Black Desert's combat that are really good, but I also think that it's clunky in a way that could be improved and made better.
현실성, 익숙함과 낯섦의 공존입니다. 크로노 게이트를 비롯한 구조물들은
Chrono gates
인간이
maybe
만든 것
man-made, but they're
같지만
not.
인간의 손으로 만든 것이
Sure.
아니며 멀리서 바라보는 것만으로도
I mean, I will say that like if I look at the visuals here, I mean like this looks fucking awesome. Like this is exactly the kind of game that I'd be looking to play, right? This is insane.
으로도 압박감과 위압감을 느낄 수 있도록 디자인되었습니다. 숲, 호수, 산맥 같은
Yeah, like
자연
that looks fucking awesome too. Look at that.
환경은 최대한 사실적으로 표현했고 플레이어가 직접 그
I mean,
안에
to be fair, like a lot of games with Unreal 5 look this way, but at the same time, it's good that they look this way.
들어가 있는 듯한 몰입감을 줄 수 있도록
Yeah, this looks
했습니다.
great.
하지만 이 세계 곳곳에는 논리적으로 설명할 수 없는
Otherworldly entities defy
이질적이고
logic and
거대한
comprehension.
존재들이 자리하고 있습니다.
All right, let's see them.
세테라의 환경 또한 빼놓을 수 없을 것 같습니다. 이곳은 플레이어가
If the
탐험하는
performance is
장소가
good,
아니라
I'm good. Yeah.
이해할 수 없는 거대한 존재가 우리를 내려다보는 공간입니다. 차원을
What
넘어
the fuck?
침공해온 보이드는 평범한 인간은 감히 저항할 수 없는 힘을 가지고 있으며 그들의 흔적은
Yeah, some of the art
세계
here is
곳곳에 남아
amazing. I love
있습니다.
it.
우리는
Is there
현실적인
any mention of pay to win? I mean, I think that's the main concern that a lot of people have. Is like, if a game like this is out, is it going to have pay to win in it? That's the big concern that I think everybody has. Because it's a Korean MMO. And like most Korean MMOs have like some form of pay to win in them. That's, I think, the big weakness that MMOs have right now.
환경과 초현실적인 공간이 뒤섞이며
Course it will.
질서가 무너지고
Well,
인간이 감당할
I'll
수
tell you
없는
this. Like,
거대한
I think that if
공포가
you're
서
trying to make an MMO that's like pay to win, I think you might as well just give up. Just stop. You're not going to make any motion. You're not going to do anything crazy. You're not going to, like, it's just going to be another bullshit game that nobody's going to care about. Like, people are going to lose interest in it, even if it has good gameplay.
서서히 밀려드는 세계로 만들고 싶었습니다.
It's going to be buy to play, apparently. That doesn't mean it can't be also pay to win. What sets Chrono Odyssey apart? Okay.
크로노 오디세이에서 저희는 플레이어가 스스로 선택한 탐험과 모험을 통해 자신만의 이야기를 만들어가기를 원했습니다. 기존 MMORPG는 메인 퀘스트
fix on
라인이
main
강하게
quest line,
잡혀 있어
forcing most players
대부분
to follow
유저가
the same path.
똑같은 루트를 따라가게 됩니다.
Sure.
하지만 크로노 오디세이는 이런 틀을 깨고
So there's
유저가
no, like,
직접 세상을 탐험하고 발견하는
I don't understand this. If there's no main story, how do you? Okay, I don't know.
재미를 느낄 수 있도록 설계했습니다. 크로노 텍터를 사용하면 과거의 흔적을
I guess you pretty
추적하거나
much just go around and do
미래를
whatever the
미리
fuck,
엿보는
right?
방식으로 탐험이 가능하며 유적을 조사하는 과정에서 시간을 조작해 숨겨진 길을 열거나 과거의 모습을 재현하는 방식으로 새로운
Okay.
길을 찾을 수도 있습니다. 단순한 퀘스트의
Simply
해결이
completing quests,
아니라
players will witness the world's
유저가
changes.
직접 세계의
So you pretty
변화를
much can do it in any order you want. That's fine.
경험하고 탐험을 통해 이야기의 조각들을 모으는 방식입니다. 여러분의 호기심의 크기에 따라서 메인 퀘스트 라인뿐만 아니라 실현, 미궁, 필드 보스
Trials,
사냥
labyrinths,
등
and field
다양한
bosses.
콘텐츠들을
Okay, so
발견하실 수 있습니다.
this is gonna be the traditional, probably dungeons, raids, and world bosses, right? Like I feel like a lot of these games function pretty much the same.
저희는 게임 내 대부분의 행동에
Mostly in
경험치를
activities around experience
분배하였습니다.
points. Yeah.
채집과
Allow
제작만으로도
players to reach max level through
만렙을
gathering and
달성할 수
crafting.
있도록
That's good.
설계했습니다. 기존 MMORPG에서는
Yeah.
생활 콘텐츠 유저들이
This is also like this insight is very good because I think that that's one of the reasons why MMOs have stagnated is that they've become too focused on just combat and just gameplay. Whereas you have a lot of people that would play WoW and do crafting and other things like that. And I think that what really matters a lot is that you can go and look at a lot of isekai anime and you can see how there are always characters inside of isekai animes that don't really actively play a combat role in the story, but they're integral to the story. And so if you can't live out that fantasy in a video game, I think that the video game is lacking something. Because if you look at how popular isekai anime is as like a genre, I think that shows that that's basically like a confirmation that this style of game is something that a lot of people are looking for.
소외되는 경우가 많았습니다. 하지만 크로노 오디세이에서는
this
탐험과
is gameplay?
제작만으로도 충분히 강해질 수 있도록 했고 이들이 전투 유저들과 거래나 정보 공유 등을
This is
통해
like pre-alpha.
서로 이득을 볼 수 있는 구조로 만들고 있습니다.
I mean, they should just take exactly what New World did and do that.
유저가 원하는 플레이
Like New World did a
스타일을
great job at
자유롭게
that.
선택할 수 있고 게임 내에서 다양한 방식으로 성장할 수 있도록 하였습니다. 또한 정보를 최소화함으로써 유저 스스로 탐험하고 발견하는 재미를
Minimize
느낄 수
in-game
있도록
guidance to encourage
설계했습니다.
curiosity. Yeah.
많은 MMORPG가 특정 역할을 강요합니다. 탱커, 딜러, 힐러로 나뉘고 그 역할에 맞춰
I do think tank healer and DPS is like I think that every time that a game tries to avoid tank healer and DPS, it always ends up with tank healer and DPS in a soft version. Like it's just what makes sense. It's what makes sense logically. Like the trifecta, yeah. It's like I don't think that any game really transcends this. Even like Lost Ark has support roles and stuff like that too.
를 찍고 장비를 맞춰야 합니다. 하지만
Chrono
크로노
Odyssey breaks away from the
오디세이에서는
traditional model.
그런 정통적인 방식을
allow
벗어나
players to progress how
유저가
they wish.
원하는 방식으로
I
성장할 수
don't know
있도록
about this.
만들었습니다.
I don't
크로노
know.
오디세이는 한 번의 전투에도 집중할 수 있도록 설계되었습니다.
Yeah.
단순한 수치 싸움이 아니라 패링과 회피,
So this is what's really going to be the determining factor. Is that this is an MMO that plays like Elden Ring or Dark Souls. This lives or dies based off of its connectivity and netcode. If this has shitty netcode like New World did, it's a dead game. Like straight up, it's a dead game if it has shitty netcode.
시스템을 통해 전투의 깊이를 더했습니다. 또한 특정 클래스에 집중되지 않게
Yeah.
모든 유저가
Like, this is a
자신의
really cool
역할을
idea.
수행할 수 있도록 설계하여
Like what their idea, like my, so like I'm being very negative about this in a way, but I want to say that I do think this is the future, and I'm being extremely critical because I want them to do it in the perfect way, because I know that the perfect way of doing this can make an amazing game. This is, I think, this is the rough draft of what I think the next big MMO will be, as long as it's not a pay-to-win grind fest. Actually, even being a grind fest is okay. Not being pay-to-win. Being pay-to-win is not okay, though. You're never going to have a big MMO that's pay to win. It's just not going to happen. But anyway, having roles where like players can play like a bard role or like a healer role or like some support role or like a locking the monster down role, that's very important to have. But a lot of times it becomes extremely formulaic. And it happens instantaneously that it becomes formulaic.
전투의 자유도를 높이고자 했습니다. MMORPG에서 흔히 볼 수 있는 대규모 공성전이나 투기장 같은 단순 PVP 콘텐츠에서 벗어나 PVEVP 방식의 차별화된 콘텐츠를 제공하려고 노력하였습니다.
Like this looks great.
기존 MMORPG와는
Chrono Odyssey is built for smaller scale play.
소규모 인원이 함께 즐길 수 있는 게임입니다. 처음에는 한두 명이
I don't think that players start out either solo or with a small group gradually expanding their party over time. That's a good idea. I don't think that you need really, really big groups. I think that you should have that. So there should be a couple of times, like in my opinion, there should be, in an MMO, there should be capstone level things that involve very, very large groups of people, right? And so you think about like the great fantasy stories like Lord of the Rings, right? You want to be able to have a Battle of Helm's Deep or Minas Tirith. And so like for a big like PvP castle siege, it shouldn't be about balance. It should be about spectacle, right? Spectacle, numbers, and strategy. Also, you have world bosses and like guild bosses. Like for example, if you had a guild boss that required 100 people, let's say. I mean, it's probably too many, right? But like 50 people, 40 people like in WoW, that would also be really cool. But I think that the core gameplay should be about smaller groups of people, because that way people can feel like they're playing a role, and you also don't have, because a lot of these games have matchmaking too. And so whenever you have large groups with matchmaking, you create a sense of apathy where like people are just lazy and bad. Like in LFR,
멀티플레이를 시작하고
in WoW.
천천히 인원을 늘려가는 방식으로 유도합니다. 만렙 이후에도 최대 5인 파티를 유지하고 함께하는 동료로서의 경험, 즉 우리의 모험과 탐험이라는 방향성을 가져가고자 했습니다. 처음에는 저희도 기존 MMORPG처럼 모든 역할을 구분하려 했습니다. 그런데 개발을 하다 보니 하이브리드 클래스가 필요하다는 걸 깨달았습니다. 그래서 어쌔신이나 레인저 같은 클래스가 탄생했고 기존의 탱딜 힐 개념에서 벗어나 좀 더 유연한 플레이가 가능하도록 다양한 무기를 통한 스타일의 변화를 넣었습니다. 무엇보다도 힐러나 탱커가 솔로 플레이에서 불리하지 않도록 하는 것이 중요했습니다.
Unironically, WoW does a really good job at that now. That like healers and tanks don't have these big issues anymore.
그래서 힐러라도 혼자서 충분히 성장할 수 있도록 설계했습니다.
They used to be really bad.
MMORPG라고 해서 반드시 파티를 꾸려야 하는
MMORPG doesn't mean that players should always be in a party. This is a huge thing too, is that MMOs don't understand that, like they draw a very, very hard, they draw the wrong line between like group play and solo play. I think that group, like if you want somebody to do group play, having matchmaking for group play means that the group play doesn't matter. Group play should only matter if you're finding a team to do something that's specific with a specific goal. Because usually whenever you're doing matchmaking with a group, you're effectively just playing with NPCs. The content, and this is also another problem with matchmaking gameplay, is that matchmaking gameplay has to be designed to be so easy that an average group of people that do not communicate can complete it. Well, that's never going to create a good experience for a player. So it's better to either create that content and make that content solo content, or to make it more challenging and more rewarding and have it be for specific groups of players.
아닙니다. 성장 과정도 전투도 유저가 원하는 대로 경험할 수 있게 하는 게 우리의 목표였습니다. 크로노 오디세이의 전투는 단순한 스킬 연계가 아닌 무기 스왑을 활용한 특히 있는 전투 시스템을 지향합니다. 기존 MMORPG처럼 한 가지 무기에 의존하는 전투 방식과는 달리 두 개의 무기를 자유롭게 전환하면서
encourage players to switch between two weapons strategically during combat. I don't know if really this would be a cool thing or not. I mean, like Throne and Liberty does this, and I don't really think this is. I think that being able to do this should be something that's cool, that gives you a different type of gameplay. but you should be able to like lock in and just use one weapon because people want to fulfill one type of fantasy. Like I think that whenever like you design a game, you should look at kind of like what people want to do. And a lot of people want to just be a mage. A lot of people don't want to be a mage and then go in. Like there are people that want to play like in Final Fantasy 14. People want to play red mage and people that want to play black mage. You should be able to do both.
두 전략을 짜는 것이 핵심입니다. 처음에는 무기 수합이 너무 복잡하거나 부담스럽지 않을까 고민했습니다. 하지만 자연스럽게 플레이어가 필요성을 느끼게 만들면 오히려 전투의 깊이를 더할 수 있을 거라 생각했습니다. 그래서 게임 초반부터 정예 보스를 만나게 하고 하나의 무기만
The animations, by the way, are relatively good. I think they're decent. That's why we're introducing an elite boss early in the game, so players who are only using a single weapon will struggle due to skill cooldowns. I don't think that forcing people... So, like, this I don't think is a good idea. I think that forcing people into playing the game the way that you envision them to play the game, I don't think that most players want to do this. And I think the fact that you think that you need to add in a boss into the game in order to get players to do this indicates that you're going in a way that you admit is oppositional to what players would prefer and what players would want to do. I don't think that you should do that. It's a horrible idea. Yeah, exactly, right? Nah, let them cook. Okay, well, this is just what I think is going to happen. I think the moment that you try to force players to play the game in one way, you're creating a problem. I mean, it's their vision. Well, yeah, it's their vision. This is my feedback. They can say, fuck you, you don't know what you're talking about. You're not making the game, we are. And I'll still play the game. But I'm just telling you this is what I think is going to happen.
사용하면 스킬 쿨타임이 돌아오지 않아 불리한 상황을 유도했습니다. 이때 유저들은 자연스럽게 무기 수합의 필요성을 체감하게 됩니다. Easy to run, hard to master라는 철학을 기반으로 누구나 쉽게 전투를 익힐 수 있도록 설계했지만 더 깊이 파고들수록 다양한 전략이 펼쳐지는 구조입니다. 엔드게임에서도 무기 수합을 활용하는 것이 필수적인 요소가 될 거라 생각합니다.
Yeah, I mean, New World does this too.
아니라
Weapon swapping isn't just about switching gear.
전투 중 실시간으로 조합을 변화시키는 전략적인 요소로 작용합니다. 무기에 따라 다른 스타일이 존재하고 어떤 무기를 조합함에 따라 플레이 스타일이 크게 달라집니다.
Yeah, I'm very worried about this idea.
스킬 숫자와 허드의 정보에 의존하는 방식이 아니라 직관적으로 자신의 공격 패턴을 만들고 테크닉을 활용해
I don't play gachas because they're built from the ground up as the antithesis of having a main when you're forced to maintain 4 characters at all times to stay on top of difficulty creep. Yeah. And I think that also like people like focusing in on doing one thing. Like for me, like in New World, for example, I wish that I could just focus on using one weapon and then just build into just using that one weapon. And I think that like giving people the option to do it is really important because I think there's also people that think that's boring and they like being able to use, for example, like I've seen so many videos in like New World back in the day with people using the like the spear and the bow. Like that was super cool, right? And so like that gameplay is great, but I think if you force that gameplay, it becomes problematic.
상대하는 과정 자체가 재미있는 경험이 되기를 원했습니다.
Simple gamer you want?
스킬의 수는
Yeah, guess
줄이되
most people are.
하나의 스킬이 여러 가지 역할을 수행할 수 있도록 했고 상황에 맞는 스킬 운용이 전투의 핵심 요소가 될 수 있도록 하였습니다. 무기 수합과 전투 시스템의 목표는 단순함 속에서 깊이를 만드는 것입니다. 무기가 바뀔 때마다 전투 흐름이 달라지고 플레이어 스스로가 전투 스타일을 설계할 수 있도록 해서 자유도가 높아지도록 만들었습니다.
I mean, I've wanted an MMO like this for a long time. I remember seeing Terra back in the day, and I was like, oh, this is kind of what I want to play, but I just never did because I was playing WoW.
전투와 모험에 대한 철학은 크로노 오디세이의 세부적 콘텐츠 기획에 중요하게 적용되었습니다. 이번 CBT의 전투는 크게 1인 도전형 콘텐츠와
Single-based content, Chrono Trials, and Gates. Okay, that's fine.
파티형 콘텐츠로 나뉘게 됩니다.
Yeah, all that seems good to me.
1인 도전형 콘텐츠에서는 플레이어 개인의 실력과 전략이 무엇보다 중요하게 적용됩니다. 이 콘텐츠의 핵심은 플레이어가 스스로의 힘으로 한계를 돌파하며 성장하는 과정에 있습니다.
This is also a big problem that a lot of games have is that they make the solo player content easy and they make the group player content hard. I think this is the bad way of designing a game. I think that a lot of players really want individual solo challenges that are really hard because it allows them, like, here's a good way to look at it, right? Is that, like, look, I mean, again, you could go back to isekai anime, solo leveling, right? A lot of the isekai stories are built around one person doing things, right? It's not like, I mean, there's a group that's usually surrounding them to an extent, but it's also primarily one specific individual. And so you can't be a solo player in a game that's for single players. You can only be a solo game player in an MMO And I think that that aesthetic is something that's compelling to a lot of people. And so if you give people the ability to live out that aesthetic, I think it's a good thing. But they need to have those challenges, like the Mage Tower in WoW, for example. It's not isekai, but I get the idea. Every isekai anime is derivative of MMORPG design. It is. Well, not every single one, but like 90% of them are.
대표적으로 크로노 게이트가 이에 해당합니다. 강력한 보이드 사도와의 1대1 전투에서 플레이어는 상대의
Avoid
패턴을
apostles.
파악하고 전략적으로
So these are like Dark Souls
대응해야 합니다.
bosses.
이 과정에서 캐릭터의
This looks
성장과 플레이어의 숙련도 또한 높아지도록 설계되었습니다.
Decent.
난이도는 높지만 클리어 시 얻는 성취감과 특별한 보상이 그만큼 크게 와닿을 것입니다. 또 다른 도전형 컨텐츠인 시련은
Trials? What are
단순한
trials?
전투 이상의 경험을 제공합니다. 다양한 시공간을 넘나드는 이 콘텐츠에서는 퍼즐, 함정, 기믹 등이 랜덤하게 등장하며 매번 새로운 플레이 경험을 제공합니다. 이 과정에서 플레이어는 단순히 전투 실력만이
cool.
아니라
So it's almost like a roguelite
판단력과
mode?
창의력도 시험받게 됩니다.
Yeah.
파티형 콘텐츠는
Design party-based
협력과
content to
전략의
emphasize
조합을
teamwork and
통해
strategic
더 큰
coordination.
도전을 이겨내는 구조로 설계되었습니다.
I hope they don't run into the same problem that Lost Ark did. Is that Lost Ark, I feel like after Vaulton, they added a bunch of like mechanics into the game. This is like, I heard that they kind of went back on this, but like whenever I played, they did this a lot. Is that they added a lot of content and mechanics into the game that were effectively anti-solo mechanics because you can solo Vaulton pretty easily. And I think that type of idea is a really bad idea. Huge, huge bad idea. It's better to let people like, because whenever you force cooperation and force teamwork, it's a bad idea. Play Severed Steel. I'll have to see what game that is. I don't even know what the game that is. I have no idea. Severed Steel. Maybe I will.
권장 던전이 대표적인 예로 3인 권장 파티로 구성되며 각자 다른 역할을 맡아 협력하는 것이
Jailing and
중요합니다.
gatekeeping can be a problem. Yeah, and that's another thing too, is that, so, and this is another big problem that a lot of designers and developers don't understand, is that they don't understand the second order effects of the way that they design a game and how it will affect the player base's mentality of playing the game. So in a general rule, the more that players get punished, the harder players will try to avoid being punished. What does that cause? That causes you, if you don't have Light of Salvation 30, for example, in Lost Ark, you don't get into a group. Because they're only going to invite people that have put 1,000 hours into the game, 2,000 or 3,000 hours into the game. And so all of these things, and like this is like, by the way, that's like a super, super really hard thing to do in the game. It's like a huge time sink. And so that's, yeah, people just want to play the game, right? And so if you make like bosses that require a tremendous amount of teamwork and coordination, what you will end up doing is you'll make it to where the only way that people can play the game is if they've already done this 50,000 times. And it makes it harder for new players to get into it. So it's very important that, in my opinion, bosses that are made for group content can still be soloed. That's like a super, super important thing. And this is also me speaking as like a person. The video that got me into playing World of Warcraft was a video from a mage called Faxmonkey, because I thought it was really cool that you could solo the entire boss in a dungeon or a raid. I think like the entire concept of that is so fucking cool. And so if you can't do that in a game, I feel like that's a huge weakness. And you don't want to have a game that doesn't have that, because if you do, then you create new problems with how the community adapts to that type of design.
기존 MMORPG의 대규모 레이드와는 다르게 짧은 시간 동안 집중도 높은 협력 전투를 제공하면서도 적은 인원으로도 충분히 전략적인 플레이를 즐길 수 있습니다. 리전 보스 콘텐츠는 더 큰 스케일의 도전을 제공합니다. 여러 파티가 힘을 합쳐야 공략할 수 있는 대규모 레이드로 지역의 수호자인 가디언과 맞서 싸우는 콘텐츠입니다. 이 보스를 터치하면 얻을 수 있는 고유 내러티브 장비는 유저의 성장뿐 아니라 게임의 세계관을 더 깊이 이해할 수 있는 열쇠가 됩니다.
Korean MMOs love to have like these big world bosses and like field bosses. That's usually what they call them. That have like really, really crazy rewards. Like I remember whenever I played BDO, like Zarka, I think was the boss called that. And like he would drop the best weapons in the game and there would be like a bunch of drama over that boss.
이 두 가지 전투 컨텐츠의 방향성은 명확합니다. 이렇게 설계된 전투 컨텐츠는 단순한 성장 수단이 아닌 유저가 직접 느끼고 경험하며 성취감을 얻을 수 있는 핵심적인 게임 플레이를 목표로 하였습니다. 1인용 도전 컨텐츠에서는 개인의 실력과 전략적 사고가 요구되며 파티형 컨텐츠에서는 팀워크와 역할의 분담이 중요해집니다. 유저들은 각자에게 맞는 전투 스타일을 선택해 자신만의 방식으로 크론 오디세이의
See, like this is always something that like worries me is that like players can choose a combat style that fits their play style, allowing them to experience the game in a way that feels uniquely their own. That means they're going to watch a YouTube video. And so like if you're going to make a design like this, you have to make it to where you can swap seamlessly between things without any sort of investment. So this is another big problem that a lot of these games get wrong, is that if you make a system that locks you into a certain build, this goes back into what I said originally, is that the harder that you punish players for making decisions, the harder players will try to make the right decisions. And when a player needs or feels like they need to use a third-party resource to make a decision, I think that the game has reached a shortcoming.
전투 시스템을 즐길 수 있습니다. 탐험과 콘텐츠는 크게 개인 경험 중심의 콘텐츠와
You're saying everything Throne Liberty did wrong? Yeah. It's a good start, yeah.
표지향적 콘텐츠로 나뉩니다. 개인 경험 중심의 콘텐츠에서는 오픈월드를 자유롭게 탐험할 수 있습니다. 게임 내 숨겨진 이야기를 통해서 다양한 경험을
쌓아가기. Isn't that true in Elden Ring though? So here's the difference between Elden Ring and Chrono Odyssey. Whenever you enlist the help of other people when you play in a group, you then now have to put the needs of the many over the needs of the few. Why would you invite a person playing into your group who is not maximizing their potential and their efficiency over a person who is? Why would you, and whenever you're playing Classic WoW, invite a Ret Paladin over a Warrior? You never would, because it's an automatic disadvantage. So the difference between Elden Ring is because in Elden Ring, you create the challenge and difficulty yourself. The difference in an MMO is that that challenge and difficulty is offloaded onto other people, which causes a social expectation that people will play in a certain way.
를 바랬습니다. 이 과정이 캐릭터의 성장과 맞물려 더욱 깊은 몰입감을 제공하고자 하였습니다. 가장 대표적인 예시가 미궁입니다. 시공간이 뒤틀린 구조로 이루어진 이 던전은 퍼즐과 탐험이 어우러진 콘텐츠입니다. 왜곡된 시간의 흙 속에서 숨겨진 길을 찾고
This is really cool, by the way. I like stuff like this. This is great.
보물을 발견하는 과정을 통해 전투의 피로감을 벗어나
Yeah,
탐험의
this is
재미를
awesome.
느낄 수 있도록 구성하였습니다. 최초 클리어 시에는 특별한 보상이 주어지며 이후에도 새로운 비밀이 발견될 가능성이 열려 있습니다. 또한 타임 포탈은 플레이어가 과거의 시공간을 직접 체험할 수 있는 컨텐츠입니다. 과거로 이동해 특정 시간대에만 존재하는 희귀한 채집물이나 스토리 조각을 발견할 수 있고 이를 통해 크론 오디세이 세계관에 더욱 몰입할 수 있습니다.
That's cool.
현상수배는 탐험과 목표 지향형 콘텐츠가
See, bounties are very important too, I think, for games. And again, like this fits into like the idea of going after a bounty every single MMO, isekai, any of these things, I mean, even Westerns, right? You go to the inn, you go to the Adventurers Guild, and you pick up a bounty and you do the thing. Right? This is the role play. And I think that it's very... And also, by the way, this is probably the way it was, like, in 1300. Like, it was like, you go to an inn, okay, what needs doing? Okay, you go do the thing.
결합된 형태로 오픈월드에서 유저가 해야 할 명확한 목적지를 제공합니다. 이 콘텐츠는 필드를 자유롭게 탐험하면서도 명확한 목표를 제시해 유저가 방향성을 잃지 않도록 설계되었습니다. 특정 현상범을 추적하고 처치하는 과정에서 자연스럽게 새로운 지역을 탐험하고 숨겨진 비밀을 발견할 기회를 얻게 됩니다. 현상 수배의 목표는 단순한 몬스터 사냥에 그치지 않습니다. 세테라 주민을 위협하는 존재를 제거해서 세계의 안정을 가져오는 역할을 맡게 되고 그 과정에서 게임에 더 몰입할 수 있는 경험을 하실 것이라 생각하였습니다. 크로노 오디세이의 성장 시스템은 전통적인
Okay, so here's what matters. All right, so now we have the real, this is the game. All right, where could the pay to win be? Okay, so processing level, processing mastery, after gathering butchery, titanium sickle, meteorite sickle. Okay, all this seems fine. Swordsman experience, jewel socket imbued with a very low chance upon acquiring. Okay, it seems like there's nothing upgrade percentage chance. Yeah, but we don't see anything that you can augment that with yet. There's nothing in this right now that looks pay to win.
전통적인 방식을 벗어나
This just looks like New World. This literally is like New World. This just looks like New World so far.
방식대로 자유롭게 캐릭터를 발전시.
Let me go back. Optional materials. That scares me. I hear that word optional materials. That scares me a lot. Uh-oh. I don't know about that. There's a percentage? Where's the percentage? I don't see a percentage here. I think that percentage upgrade possibilities are not a problem either. Fundamentally. Okay, equipment score. What did that just do? Okay, so it had magical damage, and it has these different buffs on it. Players can develop their character freely. Okay, so equipment score 44. Okay, so all of these things are randomized.
그 중심에는
That's fine.
제작과
That's okay.
강화가 있습니다. 채집의 과정을 통해 희귀한 재료를 얻을수록
The problem isn't the issue is that if you can use real money to influence the outcomes of crafting. Crafting that's random is fine. Crafting whenever you can influence it with money is not.
높은 등급의 장비를 제작할 수 있고 이 과정에서 단순한 수치적인 상승을 넘어 플레이어가 직접 성장의 결과물을 만들어내는 성취감을 제공하도록 하였습니다.
No, guys, no. This is going to be the only Korean MMO that's not pay to win, okay? I can just feel it. This is going to be the one, all right? They've learned their lesson from all the other games, and they know for sure that's what it is. Like, yeah, for sure. There's also a lot of cheating involved in MMOs, like Korean MMOs. Like, I didn't even. It's crazy. I didn't even know about this.
탐험,
a lot of
채집 등
cheating.
다양한 활동을 통해
Enhancements.
강화 재료를 얻을 수 있어 플레이의 다양한 플레이.
How does this work? Do you want to enhance the helmet? Okay, this should be
통해 강화 재료를 얻을 수 있어 플레이어의 다양한 플레이 스타일에 맞춘 성장이 가능합니다. 강화 실패에 대한 부담을 최소화했으며 전투에서 성장이 막힐 때 새로운 성장의 기회를
Just do not have reverse progression. If you have reverse progression, like people are just going to quit the game. Like BDO is a good example of that. Like the first time I had I combined my earrings together, I got two of those like witching earrings from like that skeleton place, and I combined them and they broke. I was like, I'm quitting. I'm done. I don't want to play this anymore.
경험할 수 있습니다. 이 두 시스템은 서로 긴밀히 연결되어 있습니다. 전투 중심 플레이어는 보스전과 던전에서 재료를 얻어 성장할 수 있고 비전투 중심의 유저도 채집과 제작만으로 충분히 강한 캐릭터로 성장할 수 있습니다.
Non-consensual PvP kill BDO. I think that an MMO, like I have a very, very like, I don't know what the right decision is, but if I had to lean on one side or another, I think that at least the majority of the game should not have non-consensual PvP. Because whenever you think about it, basically non-consensual PvP means that you're making a player do something that they don't want to do. At a very fundamental level, that's a bad way to design a video game that people have to choose to play. Creating friction in a game is important in order to make it feel better, but at the same time, whenever you create so much friction and you give players the ability to impact other players' experiences, the extremes of that can cause them to quit the game. Like, for example, in Classic WoW, if you keep getting ganked in Stranglethorn Vale and you can't do any of your quests, you're just going to quit the game eventually. A lot of people are just going to stop playing. Because why would they want to keep playing this game that they just keep getting farmed in? And it's not like you're not going to overcome this, right? You're not going to there's like a level 70 or level 60 hunter there, and you're a level 35 warrior. You're not winning. That's it. Like, you're dead. Somebody quit there? Exactly. Yeah, PvP opens up cheating too. Well, it's more about like, whenever you give one player the ability to impact the experience of another player in the game, you have to make sure that that's done in a way that is as... Like, it's weird, right? Because, like, you have to allow negative interactions to occur, but the severity of those negative interactions is very important. And the frequency of those negative interactions is very important. Like, for example, if you kill somebody, like, once an hour, it's not a big deal, right? But if you're getting killed for an hour, that is a big deal. Because there's a lot of people that are casual players that, and again, the people that want non-consensual PvP want to kill people that don't want to PvP. Logically, of course, that's the case. Who else would want it, right? And so if your goal is to create content and create a situation where players can basically take advantage of something that another person doesn't want to have happen to them, but they have to let this happen to them for this situation, you are creating a toxic atmosphere. The food chain, kind of? Yeah, exactly. But when somebody's at the bottom of the food chain, don't expect them to continue reproducing. A lot of those species go extinct. And that's what happens, right? Is that the food chain, the top of the food chain eats the bottom, and then the top of the food chain doesn't have anything to eat yet anymore because they're gone, because they've gone extinct, and then the game dies. That's what happens. That's why you have PvP servers. Yeah, I think PvP servers would be one way to solve it.
성장은 플레이어의 선택에
White
따라
Knighting for
결정되며
plebs. Well, I want a game to be successful. And any MMO, if an MMO is not focused first and foremost on the casual player experience, it will fail.
방식으로 자유롭고 깊이 있는 성장의 재미를 느낄 수 있습니다.
A roadmap. All right, here we go.
이번 1차 CBT는 크로노 오디세이의 첫 번째 테스트입니다. 완성된 게임을 보여주려는 것이 아닙니다. 유저분들의 피드백을 적극 반영하면서 게임을 더욱 발전시키려는 과정입니다.
One of the core elements we're focusing on during this CBT period is improving the multiplayer experience. An MMORPG should be all about playing together. And we want to make sure that's reflected in Chrono Odyssey. We'll be working on content density to make the world feel alive, and continuing our efforts to make exploration more immersive and ensure there's a strong sense of discovery.
Like, that looks amazing, by the way. Like, just that visual right there in the background, that's incredible. Like, just make that's what people want to play, right? That's awesome.
Journey throughout the world. In Chrono Odyssey, there's no right or wrong way to
Is reading a
progress.
script? What's wrong with that?
Whether you enjoy crafting, gathering, exploring, questing, or simply engaging in combat, the game is designed to reward you for playing your way.
저희는
That's probably true to an extent, but there will always be limits to that extent, and the limits to that extent are what defines whether a game is good or not. I think that really the best game to do this, at least out of the ones that I've played, is Classic WoW. I think the way that Classic WoW designed its in-game system is probably the best way to design an in-game system, but I would have preferred slightly more solo content. I think you need more solo content at Final Fantasy XIV. That's all right, but I think I like the crafting and everything in WoW better. What if I play like a retard where I get rewarded? If you play in a group and it's matchmaking, yeah, probably.
오디세이라는 세계를 전달하는 데 있어 MMORPG라는 틀이 가장 이상적이라고 생각하였습니다. 그렇기 때문에 계속되는
Yeah, somebody brought up this point, and like fighting a boss in Chrono Odyssey with a group should feel like a multiplayer hunt in Monster Hunter. I think that's probably a good way to look at it, with a little bit more interplay between the different characters.
만들기 위해서 지속적으로 새로운 지역을 추가하고 시공간을 활용한 독창적인 콘텐츠들을 확장해 나갈 계획입니다. 시공간의 여행을 일반적으로 떠올렸을 때 생각되는 포탈을 통한 시간 이동이 아니라 미래와 현재를 실시간으로 넘나들며 퀘스트를 진행하는 방식을 연구하고 있습니다. 또한 기존 MMORPG처럼 한 지역이 끝나면 다음 지역이 열리는 게 아니라 유저의 행동에 따라 세계가 변화하고 새로운 탐험 요소가 자연스럽게 해금되는 구조를 만들려고 합니다. 우리는 크로노 오디세이를 단순히 시스템적으로 확장하는 게임이 아닌 유저가 직접 세계를
Surely a Korean MMO will not add systems without due cause. Surely. Want players to shape the world and feel like their own actions are truly immersed in that process. Again, I think this is also a double-edged sword. And so, like, this is also another big problem that games like this can run into, is that if you have a world that server-based events are triggered by activities that players on the server do, you run into the problem that if you have a dead server, a lot of functionalities of the game simply do not exist. Like, for example, like how many Onyxia buffs happen on Tichondrius, or not Tichondrius, on Fairlina versus like some random dead server. And so one's human. Yeah, exactly. And so like it's very important to make sure that like you have both of those happening.
시키고 그 안에서 살아가는 경험을 할 수 있도록 만들고자 했습니다. 크로노 오디세이를 한번 출시하고 끝나는 게임으로 만들고 싶지 않았습니다. 게임을 개발하면서 가장 중요하게 생각했던 건 유저들과 함께 성장하는 게임을 만드는 것이었습니다.
There's a problem with Ashes as well.
CGP에 참여하는 유저분들께 한 가지 부탁드리고 싶은 게 있습니다. 퀘스트만 따라가지 마세요.
Chrono Odyssey isn't about moving from one objective to the next in a straight line. We want you to embrace the spirit of exploration, share your discoveries with the community, and find your own way through this vast, mysterious world.
1차 CBT에서 여러분이 경험하게 될 내용은 크로노 오디세이의 극히 일부입니다.
If they want to do that, you have to so if you want to do this, you have to avoid making sure that there's no fast tracks. So like for example, New World is a great example of doing this wrong, is that New World had an expansive questing system and world building system, but everybody in New World just was doing the town board quests on repeat. The reason why is because they were the most rewarding. So if you want to create a good MMO and you want people to do a variety of content, you have to make sure that you create rewards in the game that follow that content. Like, again, the way that you design rewards in the game will be how people play the game.
본편이 끝난 이후에도 새로운 이야기들이 계속 펼쳐질 것이고 더 많은 리전과 클래스, 그리고 탐험 요소들이 확장되며 게임의 세계는 점점 더 넓혀질 것입니다.
Yeah, this looks amazing.
크론 오디세이 개발진들은 유저 여러분들이 만들어가는 여러분들만의 이야기를 기대하고 있습니다. 이번 CBT를 통해 받은 피드백을 적극 반영하며 지속적으로 게임을 발전시켜 나갈 계획입니다.
Game
Our
looks
goal
nice.
with Chrono
Yeah.
Odyssey is to create a title that has broad global appeal, bringing players together from diverse backgrounds.
I'm going to tell you right now, like, if you want to have broad global appeal, you can't have pay to win. You will never have a successful MMO that's on the level of like World of Warcraft with pay to win in it. Nobody will respect any accomplishment in the game. Nothing will matter in the game. It will just be bullshit. Like you'll always keep, by the way, you'll always make it, you'll keep an audience, right? It's not like you won't have an audience at all in the game. There will be people that will play the game, but it will be a very minority audience. And you will never achieve a transcendent level of success. Is it WoW also pay to win? Yeah, sure it is now. But like it wasn't for a very long time. It'll die slowly? Yeah, because people will lose interest. Because like the problem is that people are smart. And well, they're smart and they're stupid. But in this way, they're smart. They will look at the amount of time that they're spending in the game and the amount of money that they can spend to achieve the same outcome of that time. And that will work as a demotivating force against them playing the game. Unless they're super hardcore or they have a lot of money. Which will then act as an even more demotivating force for the people that are not super hardcore and or do not have the money.
Share an immersive MMORPG experience.
크론 오디세이 세계에서 여러분들을 기다리고 있겠습니다. 많은 기대 부탁드립니다. 곧 만나 뵙겠습니다.
I want to say also, I have been extremely critical of this game. And the reason why is because I think this game probably has one of the best shots of being actually good. Like, this is one of the only games that has an actual shot of being good. And so I'm being extremely critical about it because of that reason. Like, that's the 100% reason why I'm being critical. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't really give a shit, and I would just say it doesn't really matter, who cares. Combat isn't good, so pass. I think the combat looks good. And so, yeah, it fell this much because there's potential. Yeah, and this is why I care a lot about it, right? It's because I want to see this game succeed, and I want to see it do well. And I talked to them on Twitter. I haven't talked to these people at all. I've had no communication with this this developer. And so, with a lot of the combat, I can just look at. I guess this is just I'm assuming this is just the highlights of the combat. Yeah. Here you go. So, like, a lot of this combat, I feel like the majority of it just feels and looks a lot like kind of like BDO in a way, like a better version of BDO, which is a good thing. Like, I don't think that's bad at all. And so, like, this type of gameplay, etc., is totally fine. But you said you know more in the public. I know when the CBT comes out. Yeah. That's what I know. That's about it. And like I know the day it comes out. But that's literally it. And anyway, like, what do you think of the Tides of Annihilation? Well, that's a different game. But like my point is with this is that like this type of gameplay, etc., this is good, especially for it being in pre-alpha. But I really think that they should look at fighting monsters and stuff like this. Look at games like Monster Hunter and, like, don't make it to where you need coordination. Like, for example, like, let's say with this boss, like, theoretically, there's, like, 4 of these platforms, and each player needs to stand on one of these 4 platforms. This is a recipe for making your game die. This is, like, it's like a fucking, you're speed running making the game die. And so Lost Ark, yeah, do not do that. You have to make these bosses really badass, but you have to let people be able to solo them. That's it. Again, a Korean MMO, pay to win incoming, and it's an MMO on controller. Yeah, I don't know yet, but I don't think that it being on controller has any sort, like, I mean, Final Fantasy 14 was on controller, and I think that's fine. You can really see how their physics looks. It's just going to be another Korean cash grab. Come on, bro. I'm not convinced of that yet. Like, I mean, I think that there's a high probability of that happening. And honestly, this is the problem that I think that MMOs have right now, is that MMOs have so much investment and money and time that needs to go into creating them that I don't think that you can create an MMO in a way that players want to play it. Like, this is going to sound crazy, but I don't think that there's going to be an MMO that has even cosmetic transactions that will be transcendently level success like World of Warcraft Classic was. Because people just don't want to play that shit. And so I feel like that's the main issue. Is that, like, right now with, like, and I think this will change with generative AI and with technology as time goes on. But right now, we're in this place where these video games cost so much money to make, they need to make their money back by creating systems that end up alienating players. And I think that's the big weakness that MMOs have right now. Is that if there is any way that you can use money to influence the way that you play the game or what is existing in the game, I think that the game is running into a huge problem just right there by itself. And the reason why is because people play MMOs to get away from the fact that life is pay to win. Nobody wants to go and play a fucking video game where a guy that's a stock trader or a Saudi Arabian oil prince just one-shots you and outperforms you, or have to spend 5% of the time that you do because they have more money than you do. Elon Musk, right? Yeah, exactly. Like, this isn't a fun game for you. And it makes the players feel like shit, too. It makes anybody feel like shit. And so that's a big problem, unless it's Riot MMO. Well, I think that Riot MMO is the same thing. I think they have the exact same problems. And so, yeah, that's Elon's dogshit games, though. That's not my point. Who cares? There's nothing to do with it. My point is that with this game, if you have any way that you can accelerate your gameplay, or you can have things that look cool because you've paid money, this really hurts the MMO experience. It is a tremendous damage to the MMO experience, and I think that more people need to realize that. And I think that the reason why they don't is because they don't understand why people play MMOs. I think one of the very big reasons why people play MMOs is because they are looking for a world that has a reward structure that is different than real life. They're looking to play in a world that is rewarding based off of time spent rather than people known. They're looking for a world that's, they want to escape reality. You cannot escape reality inside of a video game that constantly reminds you that you don't have X, Y, and Z thing because you can get this thing through things that you get in reality. And I know it sounds crazy, but I think this is so fucking important. And a lot of developers, I think that, again, it's hard to get people to understand something that their paycheck depends on them not understanding. I don't know the way to make a new video game that doesn't have these problems. If I did, I'd make it. But I do feel like that is one of the biggest setbacks and the big problem that these MMOs don't have right now. What MMO games exist that fit this criteria? Classic World of Warcraft. Period. You can't buy anything. You can't have anything, done. There's no store. There's no cosmetics. There's nothing. All you have in that game is what you earn. I don't know if that was 20 years ago. Exactly. Yes, a game made 20 years ago. And that's my whole point. That was the last time that MMOs mattered. Every MMO that's come out after Classic WoW has been less than a 10% of the impact of Classic WoW. They're nothing compared to WoW. It's not even remotely close. Like, I don't think people realize, like, World of Warcraft was more popular than Minecraft at its peak. It was the game. No other game has even come remotely close. I would even say that no other game, every other MMO put together, has not even come close to World of Warcraft at its peak. The glory days? Yes, exactly. What year? 2004 to 2010. Those were the, basically the original trilogy of the game before it turned into bullshit. Those were the days, right? Unironically, they won't understand they weren't there. Yeah. MMOs, you need to make sure that MMOs can reward people. And here's also another reality. And I'm going to address this and then I want to move on to something else, okay? But it's the last thing I want to talk about. The ability to spend 12 and 15 hours in a video game is a privilege in itself, in the same way that the ability to spend $1,200 and $1,500 in a video game is a privilege. For example, if you're 16, the ability of you to spend 10 hours is a lot higher than if you're 26 or 36, but you can spend more money if you're older. The reality is that MMOs are not fair because you're competing. Like if you're a 45-year-old family man, you're competing against somebody that's like, some kid that doesn't have a job. You can never beat him. You will never beat him. But the reality is that that's at least a world where that kid can win. Because the real world, that kid can't win. If you can't give that kid a world that they're going to win in, they're not going to want to play the game. Why would they want to invest their life into the game if they can't beat people in real life? They would beat them in real life. Exactly, right? And so every competitive game is like that nowadays. Exactly. And so I can't win in neither. Time is money. Yeah, exactly, right? And so unless you pay on to play your account, MMO fatigue is a thing. And you got to separate cohorts. Yeah, exactly. But the kid doesn't have money and the company wants money. Exactly. But the problem is that those kids that are playing the game are the backbone of the game. The majority of people will not spend a bunch of money. And this is another thing, is that a whale can't exist in an ocean that's empty of other fish. A whale has to exist in an ocean that has tons of other fish in it also. And so the problem is that whenever you're making a game and you design it for whales, what ends up happening is that in a lot of cases, you only have whales. And that's the big weakness that you have, is that you need to create an ecosystem. And this is a problem that, for example, Mixer had with streamers. You can have the biggest, the strongest, and the tallest sequoia tree in the world with Ninja or Shroud, but if you don't have the shrubs, the bushes, the squirrels, the, snakes, the bugs, and everything that create the ecosystem for that sequoia tree to exist in, you can put that tree out in the middle of a desert and it's going to die. And I think the exact same thing is true with a lot of these games. You need to create an ecosystem and a player economy and a player social hierarchy. And if that social hierarchy is derived from real money, you failed as a developer. And your game will fail as a game. That's it. And so I can talk about this for fucking hours, because and also a lot of the things that I understand about the reason why I think I get a lot of things right with like world events and stuff like that, and I can predict things, is because I've played these online video games my entire life. I played these my whole life. I've done this my entire life. And I've seen how people react to this stuff. And this is at the very, very base level. This is what people will do if there are no consequences. And it is the true window into the actual impulses and the actual driving forces of human behavior. Because what somebody does when they don't have an incentive to do it, that's what matters. Connect the Skinner box nature of MMOs to human nature? Yes. And do you think some cosmetic microtransactions would ruin that economy? Yes. Unequivocally, yes. A lot of people like MMOs. I'm just going to say it. A lot of people like MMOs because they provide an even playing field that real life does not provide for them or has not provided for them yet. If you're a young kid, the chances of you're a 16-year-old loser, you're not going to be taken seriously in life and in the world by anybody. Nobody's going to give a fuck about you. But if you play a video game and you can achieve that level of success, that is one of the only places in the world where a young guy or girl can get any degree of success in the world that is meaningful around like an open world, right? In an open space against adults as well. It's really true, right? Exactly. Yeah, it's guaranteed success. And so, fat chicks won't hot. Well, what I'm saying is, yeah, girls do play the game, and I think that they do it for the same reason in a way. If you are 16 years old, you have probably no skills, no value, you're a loser, you're worthless, you're level 16. Who wants to invite you for a dungeon group? Nobody. But if you can play another game and then level all the way up to 60 in that game, well, then that gives you the advantage. You see what I'm saying? And that is the target market for MMOs. And the MMOs that forget that, and they forget that those people are the bedrock, will fail. And I understand that I'm saying this in a way that kind of sounds bad. And that's why I'm saying it in this way. Because this is the rawest and most direct way for me to explain this that is fair and honest and direct. This is what motivates people to play. And also, like, one last thing is the cosmetic idea. And then I want to move on. I'm going to watch this video really quick because obviously a lot of people were wanting me to watch it. But before I do that, I want to say that the cosmetics and why the cosmetics are so important is because think about how much money somebody spends on a cosmetic in real life. Like, people buy pants that are $2,000. They drive cars that are $300,000. If you have a Lamborghini, it doesn't matter if it goes 200 miles an hour. If you drive at 200 miles an hour, you go to jail. So there's no actual advantage to having a Lamborghini in a functional way. Same with like having a really expensive watch. You can check your time with this. You can go get a watch for $5 and it's going to tell you the time just the same as a Rolex will, really. I mean, outside of like, maybe like, I don't know, maybe you get it wet, it maybe doesn't work, right? And so anyway, the majority of things that drive people are cosmetic in real life even. Like, for example, having a hot wife, having an expensive, cool-looking car, having a nice house. Like, having a really big, expensive, cool-looking house, how much of this is function and how much of this is form? The majority of it is actually form. They don't really care about how many rooms it has or anything. They care about the perception that they are wealthy. And it's the same as the car. It's the same as clothes. It's the same as anything. So once you understand that humans operate under a premise of if people can perceive value in something, then it has value. Value is completely subjective in this regard. And cosmetics subvert that completely. Because if somebody can buy something that makes them look cooler than you, that you've had to earn in a video game, now you're the loser because you don't have the cool thing and they do, even though they didn't earn what you earned. Now you're stupid. That's the reason why cosmetics are bad for video games. You see what I'm saying? This argument works against you, actually, because people could simply do not value payable cosmetics compared to earned in games. People do not value payable cosmetics compared to earned in games. That is not true. And I think a great example of that is if you look at real life. People think you have a really cool car if you have a really expensive car. They do. They think that's awesome. They value it because of what it represents. It represents status. People care about status. And that is what the cosmetics imply. And so it doesn't matter whether it's a Lamborghini, Thunder Fury, Blessed Blade of the Windseeker, Gladiator title, or a Supreme t-shirt. All of these things imply status. And if you allow status from the real world to intersect and to cannibalize status from the game, you will demotivate people from playing the game. That's it.